I certainly have reconciled myself first and foremost with what happened. You know, if you follow the discourse in Zimbabwe, you get people saying, oh, you were outsmarted, by which they mean guns outsmarted me. I can't imagine a situation where certainly myself, but from what I know, even those others of my colleagues who were caught up in this situation, the possibility of contemplating the use of violence to defend a political interest, even as we saw what was happening, was completely out of the question.
Former Minister of Information in Zimbabwe, Jonathan Moyo, was extremely critical of the current ZANU-PF leadership after the removal of President Robert Mugabe in office in 2017. However, it looks like he has since toned down. As the country is preparing for elections, Moyo has expressed his concerns over the arrest of the opposition member of parliament, Job Sikhala.
But for a person to be in detention for 1 year,
a lawmaker for that matter?
Yeah, I don't think that it speaks well of anyone of us as Zimbabweans, but in particular those who are in authority, then specifically of the judiciary. You don't want to be in a country where the courts become an extension of the politics of the day. This is what I think is a bit scary, alarming about the current developments, if you look at that.
On the current so-called Patriotic Bill, Moyo had this to say.
It is about addressing a mischief of Zimbabwean citizens or residents working with foreigners, not among themselves, but working with foreigners to seek to overthrow the government, working with foreigners to seek to have those foreign countries impose sanctions on Zimbabwe or something. It is about that. It is not dealing with any mischief you find in our neighboring countries. I am not aware of South Africans who are in politics or in civic society who work with foreigners, although occasionally the DA people come pretty close to that in some cases. But I will have a tough time. Probably it will be impossible for me to sustain an example of even the DA working to say, okay, you Britons, you Americans, let's see how can we get this ANC government. I see the DA going to PA, going to IFP, and so forth to say, can we, which to me is sensible. I assure you, there is a mischief which is uniquely Zimbabwean and in Zimbabwean politics that somehow compatriots end up saying, I'm better off if I go and talk to the US Senate and tell them that Zimbabwe is doing ABC, take measures. Zidera is a product of Zimbabweans working in cahoots with the Americans to impose sanctions.
He has also criticized the opposition party in Zimbabwe.
If you look at this election against the background of previous elections since, let's say, 2000, over the last 23 years, this is the one election without an opposition. The one situation we have in Zimbabwe today, and it has been developing since the last election, is that there is a palpable absence of an organized, discernible, active opposition. it is common cause that the leading opposition since 2000, which was in the form of the Movement for Democratic Change, MDC, is no longer there. And what there is in Zimbabwe today is an opaque movement which calls itself a Citizen Coalition for Change that is led by Advocate Nelson Chamisa. It is conspicuous by its absence in the political arena.
Moyo is not about to go home soon.
The possibility of me going back to Zimbabwe before 23 August 2023 is zero. It's not even in the cards.
Zimbabwe will hold presidential and parliamentary elections this year. Sophie, Mokoena, SABC News.